What if the most important things you own weren't toys at all? What if they were feelings? Like the feeling of belonging, of being seen, or of creating your own magic. These were the moments and the objects that weren't just for play, they were for life. And they taught us something about ourselves long before we ever had to pay for a lesson. Before we had much, we had imagination. And we had things that weren't meant to be toys at all, but we made them one. Plastic caps from milk jugs became wheels, shields, or coins in imaginary games. And metal bottle caps made great currency. You'd line them up, flip them, and trade them like they meant something big. It was endless, cheap, and somehow way more fun than anything wrapped in plastic at the store. And then there were the rubber balls from the grocery store gumball machine. You drop a coin, turn the knob, and hope for a good one. When it was, you slam it against the sidewalk and watch it bounce higher than your head. You chase it down driveways and into bushes for hours. It was fast, unpredictable, and perfect. Even when it bounced straight into the gutter, you swore you could get it back. And what about those plastic slinkies? They looked amazing in the store, rainbow colored and stretchy, but you learned real quick the cheap ones never made it down the stairs. Still, you kept it. You stretched it across the room, wore it like a bracelet, and kept trying, hoping to unlock the secret motion. A plastic slinky might not have delivered on its promise, but it gave you something else. Patience, creativity, and the stubborn belief that maybe next time it will work. Sometimes the most treasured things weren't bought, but earned, like stickers from the teacher's drawer. They weren't fancy or collectible. They had cartoon apples or crooked stars, but they meant something. You got one for finishing your math early, for being kind, or for cleaning up someone else's mess. When the teacher reached into that drawer and called your name, your heart thumped like you won an award. They didn't cost a thing, but they reminded you that effort got noticed and that someone saw you trying. For a kid growing up with very little, that little rectangle of paper said what no one else did. You did good. And what about those mood rings? They promise to reveal your soul with nothing but heat-sensitive liquid and a silver band. Kids were obsessed. Blue meant calm, green meant normal, black meant, well, probably nothing good. The colors didn't really reflect your emotions, of course not, but it felt like magic, like your feelings were finally visible, like someone could see how you felt without you having to explain it. You checked it constantly, not because it worked, but because you wanted it to. It was a tiny piece of jewelry that made you feel seen. Some things were more than just objects. They were rituals, like the television dinner. It wasn't gourmet, but it was warm, salty, and comforting in its predictability. All you had to do was pop it in the oven, wait, and serve. The tray itself felt futuristic. Everything had its place. Families could eat while watching their favorite shows. The clang of a fork against aluminum still echoes in memory. It was the sound of dinner and television becoming one. And then there was the mixtape, a handwritten love letter wrapped in a cassette case. You waited by the radio for hours just to hit record at the perfect moment. You rewound, replayed, and carefully curated the perfect order. Some were made for crushes, others for best friends. You picked songs that said what you couldn't. When someone gave you one, you listened to it until the tape wore thin. Mixtapes weren't just music. They were memories, feelings, time capsules, and long after the songs faded, you remember the person who made it. And let's not forget the dolls. The off-brand dolls with stiff legs and wild hair, the rag dolls sewn at home with leftover cloth and mismatched buttons for eyes. They might have had a crooked smile or an arm that moved like it had arthritis, but you loved them anyway. They were your baby, your best friend, your co-star in soap opera style dramas that took place entirely on your bedroom floor. They weren't perfect, but they were yours, and that was more important. They helped you dream, and that was worth more than any name brand. These were the simple things that held the biggest secrets. They weren't about price, they were about value. They taught us that magic could be found in a simple act of creation, and that the best connections were the ones you made yourself. They were the background players in the story of our lives, teaching us about patience, about love, about creativity, and about finding joy in the small things. So let me ask you, which of these objects holds the most powerful memory for you? The kind that still makes you feel seen, or loved, or just home? Maybe it's a song on an old mixtape, the clang of a fork against a television dinner tray, or the look on a doll's face that was both a little bit scary and a whole lot of perfect. Drop a comment below and let's share these stories. If you remember any of these objects or experiences, give this video a thumbs up. And if you want to keep these memories alive, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're here to prove that even in the digital world, the past is still a treasure. Thanks for joining us on this trip down memory lane. We'll see you in the next one.